What's happening, guys? This is Adi from Gate 7 International, rolling solo just for now. I believe Dimitri is going to be joining me shortly. And the tone for this match is clearly a lot different than what we've gotten used to the last couple of weeks. It's a very difficult performance, very sobering in a way. We'll get into it. But before we get started, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're just tuning in for the first time. It costs you nothing. If you like what you hear, you want to help us grow the red and white community. It's a very easy way for you to support us and help us find more red and white fans, even on dark days like today. You can also join us on Patreon. The Patreon chat is very lively in every game. It does also act as a therapy session at times or just a place to vent. Great place to share opinions. You can get extra content if you are an enhanced content tier member, extra analysis episodes, extra interviews, all sorts of fun stuff like that. So check us out, patreon.com/Gate7International, and you can join the community for just $1 a month. Before we get moving, we have to congratulate the basketball team because they get the job done again. This is a team that shows heart every game. It's talked about how they don't have that guy on the basketball team, but these guys find a way to win. Every game, there's different people that are capable of taking the game by the horns and making a difference for the team. And it's really the team. They just find ways to win. And sometimes you wish that mentality existed with the football team. So good on them. Congratulations to them. Whereas on the football side of things, we suffered another European embarrassment. And in the last few years, I mean, especially at home, I'm just thinking of all the crazy defeats we had. And this one, for me, it just hurts worse. Not necessarily just because we lost to Maccabi Tel Aviv. That's not the only reason why it hurts. We know that there's history with our poor performances against Israeli teams. We talked about it on socials for a very long time. A lot of posts about it. We talked about it on the show before. We have not qualified past an Israeli team in any knockout situation, even in the group stage. Back in, I think it was 2002, we lost to Maccabi Haifa. We lost to them, and then we drew them 3-3. The curse keeps going, and it's a bit of a disaster for various reasons. There's a lot we can say about it, mentality wise. But before I do that, I'm going to check in. Some of you guys are checking in. Feel free to check in. Let me know where you're checking in from. We love to hear from everybody where you guys are listening from. This is a global community, and really, we enjoy nothing more than seeing where you guys are calling in from. We love it. We absolutely love it. So please go ahead. Nick Manolas here. Why, guys? Why so soft? Grima. Yeah. Grima indeed, buddy. George got through. It didn't go our way tonight, but there were a lot of good things to take from the game. If we can get a first half goal in the second leg, I wouldn't count a comeback at all. I believe even Mendilibar said something in the press conference about that if we go there, the only chance is if we get an early goal, and we have to. And you know what? In a way, I think there. If this were a better team, I'd say it wasn't possible. But you guys saw how things were when we weren't making the mistakes. It was one-way traffic. This game was about our stupid mistakes from the get-go. I mean, if we're going to talk, let's start from the beginning, guys, right? We're going to talk about the lineup. There was no surprise about the lineup. None. Period. This is, on paper, probably the strongest, most offensive lineup we could have fielded today. It was. The problems that occurred, if you guys didn't see the stats that we put on social media, the XG situation was very close. 2 to 1.2 or 2 to 1.3 as SofaScore adjusted it over time. But the problem came down to details. Details. First goal, a mistake from Hezeh. Goes to clear the ball, looked like it was a bad bounce. And then I don't know what everybody else was doing. Retsos, maybe you could say he was caught off balance, but looked like the rest of the guys just kind of watched the ball go by. And Iran Zahavi, we talked about it on socials. We pointed him out as the threat to watch. And I have to tell you guys, I'm kind of getting sick of pointing out the threats to watch, and then they still score on us anyway. The same thing happened to us against Ferencvaros in that first leg, if you remember. We talked about Vargas and how this guy is great striker for them, doesn't need many opportunities. And he almost scored less than a minute in, but thankfully it was ruled offsides. Today was a different situation. Zahavi was not offsides, and Zahavi we know is clinical. Zahavi has now scored 6 goals against us in 3 appearances. He scored 2 goals in each game that PSV played against us, if you guys remember, about 3 years ago. He scored 4 goals over 2 legs, and today he scored 2 more goals tonight. He has 6 goals against Olympiacos in 3 matches. We knew he was going to be a problem. We said it over and over and over again. I refuse to believe that Mendilibar didn't notice that as well. Zahavi has over a third of Maccabi Tel Aviv's total goals. He's responsible for over a third of their goal contributions. And we didn't have an answer. We had no answer for him. We dominated the flow of the game. We had the possession, but they were very efficient with their opportunities. They were incredible on the counter. And in transition in general, they were very compact in the midfield. And we bit it because of that. Overcommitments, poor decisions. The second goal was, again, in the midfield. We give up the ball cheaply. They make the run down the right side. Ortega gets burned. They score another goal. Our fullbacks today, Rodinei and Ortega, were just getting beat like drums when they were getting taken on one-on-one. It was not good. The defensive line in general was just nobody had a good game there. And there's a lot of there's a lot of people talking about Kostas Fortounis, the back and forth. And look, guys, nobody had a great game today. Nobody. El Kabi scored the first cross from Kostas Fortounis today. Then there were 2 money chances he had, golden opportunities, wasted. And this is what frustrates about El Kabi. You know he's going to blow opportunities. He needs 3 good opportunities at least to score one. Podence disappeared today. Guys, I forgot he was on the field for large parts of the game. He did have a nice pass that led up to the first goal. There was also a couple instances where he dribbled through players, but he was largely absent. Panos Retsos was, I don't even know how to talk about his performance today. I don't. And like I said, he's not the only person that was bad today. There were a lot of very, very bad players today. It was and I see some people on social media. A lot of people are blaming Mendilibar. A lot of people are blaming, and there's plenty of blame to go around here. And if we're talking about during the course of the game what happened, it very much speaks the same in the stats as it does what we saw in the play of the game. Individual mistakes, as has been the theme of the season, led to so many of these goals. A lot of people blaming Mendilibar, outclassed by Robbie Keane. From my end, guys, that's bullshit. I do not think Robbie Keane outclassed Mendilibar. That first goal was lucky as shit. Hezez off balance, whatever, the bad ball bounce goes through, that's it. There was nothing tactical about that first goal. Nothing. Second goal, okay. You know what? We give the ball up in half field. Nice play. That was definitely a coordinated play that they've worked on. But when you concede a goal so early like that, it just changed the momentum of the game. But at the same time, how many times do we get 20 shots in Europe? How many times do we get 10 opportunities inside the penalty area in Europe and only score 1 goal? If you guys can find me a match this season besides Bachka Topola where we had 10 opportunities inside the penalty area, I think you'd be surprised. This is why I am not as resigned to the idea that Mendilibar was outclassed. He can't be scoring those goals here. He's not responsible for certain players to just forget or remember the basic fundamentals of the game. Did he have mistakes today? Absolutely. He had mistakes today. Changes that should have happened earlier, maybe even the starting lineup. I see the argument about starting both Podence and Fortunis in the same time because we needed cover on the flanks early on and we didn't have it. There's plenty to be said on both sides here. A lot for the players. But I also want you guys to remember today. I also want you guys to remember that we eventually the streak was going to end. It just sucked it had to be in this fashion. For me, I think a fair scoreline in this match could have been 2-1. But individual mistakes cost us. Again, as they have all season. Mentality, there was a comment here about mentality I want to bring up because Mendilibar talked about this too in the post-match. Here it is, Concept Calcio. We can say what we like about the game, but these spankings against average opposition have got to stop. It's getting embarrassing and points to a deeper mentality issue. Mendilibar kind of talked about this in the post-match presser here. I have it up right here, and I'll read it to you guys as we're talking about everything here. But he also remarked on the fact that we could have a Mendilibar, a mentality crisis here. Now, our good friend and contributor here from Mexico, Manuel Meza, is the one that posted this. So I'll just read for you guys the translation of what was said. The result was fair. We were surprised in the first half with 2 quick goals. They could have surprised us more. We improved in the second half. We could have scored a second goal, but things were bad for us. As I've said many times, we often don't start games well. It could be a mindset issue, and I also have responsibility in this aspect. I've told the players, maybe I haven't made it clear. In Greece, you can turn the score around, but in Europe, against teams that have secured their positions, you easily concede a third goal, and it's something that we need to explore. So he knows there's a deeper mentality issue. He's saying it right there. Can he solve that? I think at this point, whether we all agree there is or is not hope in the second leg, the most important thing is that we figure out how to fix this for the playoffs. We have Panathinaikos this Sunday. Then after this match, we have the international break because playoff round 2 got postponed. And our next game, our next playoff match will be March 31st, the end of the month. So we have a 17-day break between playoff round 1 and playoff round 2. We need to get through this match against Panathinaikos. I know it's probably going to sound tough, but we have to brush this loss off because we have to get through the playoffs now. Act like for now, until we play Maccabi next week, that's it. You just forget about Europe. And then you go on and you move to Panathinaikos. Then we'll deal with Maccabi after Panathinaikos. There's a poll going on that I want your opinion on. Some of you have already voted. We're not going to do man of the match. Are we really going to give a man of the match vote? Maybe I'll do coach's grade still later, but can't give you a man of the match when we got molested at home. It's not how it works. So instead of asking you for man of the match, I'm going to ask you guys if you believe we can turn this around in the second leg. Now, remember, we are playing in Serbia. It's not being played in Maccabi's home field. It's being played in a neutral venue. So in a way, we don't have to deal with a home crowd. Not that seems to make a difference these days. But if you believe, let me know whether you do or do not believe that we will make it beyond the next phase. If we can turn this around, score 3 goals, and at least push it into extra time and not concede anything. So we'll see. We'll see how that poll turns out by the end of the night. So, going to get to some of your questions and comments over here. Let's see. From Fethano, thank you, buddy. Out of your truly an inspiration. I couldn't come online to talk about the shit show I saw today. I would need 3 to 5 business days to recover. There's probably a reason why I'm the only one here today. Like I said, Dimitri told me he was going to be here. Archbishop Dimitri, if some of you have called him with his mic echo, but he'll be here soon, hopefully, and then I won't have to talk again all by myself. It's exhausting kind of talking here with just one person. From Lakis Gavalas, if something positive is to come out of today's debacle, then this should be the end of the Fortunis experiment. Enough with the prima donnas and the C-class Messi impersonators. So there's a lot of different things and different opinions being thrown about Kostas Fortounis. And I will say this to you guys, because I've seen a lot of people complaining about his reduced offensive performance. And under Mendilibar, he is asked, and he has been asked, to do more defensively. Now, here's the problem. We all know Costa can't run for 90 minutes. So he can't run for 90 minutes. So then the question is, well, if you're going to start him, you need to sub him off early. Or if you are not going to sub him, then should you be using him as a super sub? He lost the ball a lot today. I'm going to venture a guess that he lost the ball the most out of anybody on the field. But then at the same time, he had the assist, beautiful cross to El Kabi. The last I checked on SofaScore, he had a number, it was like at least four key passes, which if that's the case, he leads our team in key passes and shot contributions. So he also had, I think, double-digit duel wins today, defensive duel wins. And we talked about this before, how Kostas Fortounis doesn't usually do the defensive work. And he doesn't usually track back as much. So maybe now he is. But the problem is when you're exerting more effort on the defensive side of things and you're not necessarily a player that's known for doing that or exerting that type of effort, it does take energy away from your offensive things and you see more walking. So we have to make a decision here. And this is coming back to a talking point that we had back when Martinez was here. What do we do about Kostas Fortounis and Daniel Podence if neither one is going to be able to do the physical work and running back and forth? Do you start both, or do you start one at a time? It is a difficult question, and it's a question, unfortunately, that Martinez didn't have an answer for. And it led to his firing, whether we all agreed with it or not. I know most of us wanted him to stay, but in the end, that's what led to him getting fired, because he relied too much on two individuals offensively, we weren't doing enough. We were conceding easy goals like today from individual mistakes. Mendilibar has shown us, at the very least, today notwithstanding, that he can adjust. Much to our concern about whether he could do it or not from the beginning when he first arrived here, he can adjust. He can make adjustments. Today, maybe the adjustments were wrong or they didn't come too late. Or on time, I should say. But he's made adjustments so far. He's still learning the team. Maybe he can show us something. At the very least, we need to see this team come out, go balls to the walls, as we say in English, against Panathinaikos. Have to give them everything. Have to start on the right foot in the playoffs, because we are not only playing for a European spot, we are still in the race for the title. We are far from out of it. And we showed so far that this team does have something. We have individual quality. It needs to be harnessed. And we're on the right track. We are, guys. Remember, let's take a step back before this game started, right? Let's forget the loss for a second. Let's remember where we were before this, before Mendilibar showed up. What was all of our predictions, or what were we expecting when we had Carvajal? For me, I wasn't expecting anything beyond a fourth place finish. I thought we were going to get knocked out in the first round against Ferencvaros with how bad things were going here. We get in, we have the longest win streak we've had this season, coupled by performances with the most goals we've had this season. And even when we were playing poorly and unable to finish, still putting teams away after going down early. Remember what this team was facing before Mendilibar came. We were always going to have a come back down to earth moment. Today, unfortunately, we came down a little bit harder than all of us wanted. Like I said, 2-1 loss for me, I thought would have been still a proper score line. And a 2-1 loss wouldn't have been bad. Still have everything to play for in the next leg. 4-1, a lot more difficult. A lot more difficult. It's we can talk about broader mentality issues, about why we're getting destroyed by small clubs in Greece. We can talk about the beatings we've been taking the last couple of years from Freiburg, from Maccabi Haifa, now Maccabi Tel Aviv. We can talk about all of that. But right now, the context is we have a manager here who hasn't been here that long, and all that considered has done pretty good with what's been available. This is a stump. This is a speed bump for sure. And I'm not going to lie to you, our European ambition for this year is probably over. There's probably about a 5% chance, if that we can make it to the next round and turn this around in the second leg in Serbia. Maybe. But if we're really thinking about realistically where we just came from, we're already past where a lot of us were expecting under Carvajal. Now it's about getting into the playoffs and doing the job that needs to be done. And on that note, Dimitri's finally here to join me. Archbishop Dimitri. Let's see what he sounds like. Dimitri, how you doing, buddy?
Hello. How do I sound?
You don't sound like you're in a cathedral.
That's good. That's good. I had camera issues, so I was worried that after fixing that, I was going to have mic issues as well. So thankfully, I don't. That's good.
So, Dimitri, talk to me a little bit about your take on the match today. I just spent the last 23 minutes monologuing here about the match and everything. I mean, how did you see things today? And there's still players we can talk about, but how did you see everything today?
So my my camera wasn't working, so I had to restart my laptop. But I did catch the last couple of minutes of your monologue, and the bit that stood out to me, which is what I feel like is basically a rude awakening. Basically brought back down to earth in a similar way, in my opinion, at least, to the 5-0 against Freiburg. Because I thought, just as you said, we've been doing quite well. We've been doing really well since Mendilibar came in. 6 wins out of 6. Things are looking up. People are getting ahead of themselves. Similar to how things were going with Martinez up until, the abandoned game against Panathinaikos and the 5-0 against Freiburg, when you're like, shit, we might actually do really well this season. Boom, that happens and everything sort of spirals out of control. And this is the feeling I got today, where it wasn't a 4-1 game. Shouldn't have been. It's what you said. If it was 2-1, yeah, all to play for, we would have been disappointed. We would have been like, we shouldn't have lost. Yes, pissed off at the team and whatever and the players. But the 4-1, I think, was just everything going wrong at the same time as everything going right for Maccabi. And I couldn't have it. Literally, it's a repeat of Freiburg for me. It's an exact repeat. And all I'm praying for now is that they basically pick it up and don't let it bring them down. Don't let it become a downward spiral. Actually, just forget about it and move on. I mean, I know it's hard to forget about it, but, like sort of chin up, get back on the horse and keep going, really. Because if that doesn't happen and we start messing up Greek League games, and if we don't put a decent performance in with passion, with hustle, with energy, with determination next Thursday, even if we don't win by 3 goals, even if I'm happy with winning 1-0 next Thursday and playing our fucking balls off, or winning 2-1 or something like that, and the players leaving that pitch feeling as if it was a war zone. That's what I want, especially because we don't have a game the weekend after. So it's
Right.
like you could go fully all out. I want you spitting blood by the end of it and going, yes, I gave him my all, and that's what I want. And if I don't see that, I'm really worried that the players can just sort of like they don't have the right mentality. Like they don't.
Right.
You saw them like their heads go, they get down. One player blames the other. It's just it's not healthy. So I'm really hoping that with a serious coach like Mendilibar, they have control of that and we pick our heads up. That's the main thing for me because today was an anomaly. Like today shouldn't be happening.
So let me ask you because I talked about the defense and how poor they were today, and they were straight up asleep. I see also blame some people are placing on Jose, and we'll get to Jose after this. But how can we fix this issue with the defense? I mean, look, Rodinei, we know he's never really been the most stable defensive, but he's remarkable for us offensively. Ortega has been a disappointment for the fee that we paid for him overall. And then even our center backs today, I mean, Retsos had a number of mistakes today. Even Carmo on the second goal, I know he was worried about drawing the foul, and that's kind of like why he gave up in that one segment. But the defense just seemed to sleep. They every time Maccabi came forward, our defense almost seemed like it had no answers for them. And then in the second half, we started to do well, and we were holding them into the final into Maccabi's third. The line was high, but then they get one opportunity and they score off that opportunity because our defense, nobody's watching the men and nobody's following their markers. Actually, the first goal you can also attribute to that. Sure, Jose should have had that ball, the ball that he whiffed, or maybe it kind of went over his foot a little bit. But you don't stop playing until the play is over. As a defender, you stick with that man. You stick with Zahavi until Jose clears the ball. But what ended up happening was they kind of stopped. Oh, Jose's got it. But then he didn't have it. And the next thing you knew, everyone's like, oh, and this ball that looked like it was moving at a snail's pace gets into the middle to Zahavi and he scores. What can be done about the defense? I mean, we don't have many options for the European list. We know we have Nelson Abbey. Nelson Abbey's a player that looked very good, very young in his debut. Maybe he's something that we can use, and that's an option for us. Ndoye is we know what we get with Ndoye. He's the only really other option we have in the European list, and I don't know how much more he gives you than Retsos does in today's situation. If the problem today was with overcommitting, does Ndoye solve that problem? I don't know. So what other choice do you have? What is the other choice that you have today? Can you actually change anything about the defensive side? Can you play Kini instead of Rodinei? And if you're chasing goals, can you afford to play Kini? Because we know he doesn't overlap. And does Kini actually defend better than Rodinei? I mean, because every time I watch Kini, he looks like he struggles on the defensive side of things as well. On the left side, okay, we have Omar Richards. What are we going to do? Do you trust Omar Richards more than what we've seen from Ortega? Because we haven't really seen enough of of Omar Richards at his natural position. But that left side also on the defensive end is a bit of a hole. So what are our options? Can you fix that? Can you fix what we see in the defense, or do we have to hope that we can tighten it up and hope for the best?
I'm not gonna lie, mate. I think I needed to take notes because you asked about a gazillion questions, and there's like a gazillion topics and a gazillion players that we need to talk about. I'm gonna try and remember everything. But like,
How do you fix the defensive line
interrupt.
based on what's
Well,
available in the
well,
European
based
list?
on
What do you
today,
do?
but this is the thing. Based on today, the only thing that realistically, tactic wise, I think is fixable was that we were playing like as if it was the 95th minute and we had to score from about the 10th minute onwards.
Yep.
From about the first goal that they scored, which the first goal that they scored was like really bad individual error, lapse in concentration. an issue that Olympiacos is plagued with, that it's not just lapse of concentration, but everyone thinking it's someone else's responsibility. Like the ball goes past Heze and they're not marking as tight as they should be because they're assuming Heze is going to get rid of it. You can't assume like that. You got to treat it like how you treat the situation when you're driving. No matter how good of a driver you are, there's always some dickhead out there who can't drive. So you can't just assume that because Heze should be clearing that. And to be honest, I think me and you could have cleared that. Like you just put a body there. It's like ridiculously bad. Anyways, it's a mentality issue for goals like the first one and just individual errors like.
Oh, I think we might have lost Dimitri. But more on to his point.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So that needs to change with a mentality issue. Like there's a disease in the club, because big teams don't react like that. And if it happens once, it happens once. It doesn't happen often, and we see this far too often with our team. Like you saw in the first Freiburg game, the one we lost 3-2, which was individual errors and mistakes, and Ndoye against Topola in the first game in Serbia, the 2-2. You see that very, very often, right? Let's move on to some of the actual individual players and individual points. So, actually, no. Before I move on to the players, what would system-wise? The only thing I would have changed, and the only thing you can realistically change, is we were just playing too open. Like we were chasing a game for 85 minutes, pretty much from the first goal, which was a mistake. After that, we were chasing the game and playing like they were hitting us on the counter attack as if they were prime Liverpool. That was insane. We made them look like Barcelona. We made them look like Real Madrid. Like it was really, really, really just bad. So I think the issue is how open we were, our defensive transition. These are the things that system-wise we have to change in that situation. Because but also in the same issue is that under Mendilibar, we have been chasing games, but we've been chasing games against really, really shit Greek teams that don't really know how to play counter-attacking football. I mean, the only thing they do is sit behind the ball and counter-attack, but they don't really know how to do that effectively. Like they're just shit. Maccabi, they're in the Conference League. They're not shit. So if you're that open and you're treating them as if they're like Volos or Asteras, you're going to get hit on the counter. Now, individual players. Where do we start? Rodinei, yes, defensively a problem, but offensively, we know what he offers. He's worth it. We have to fix the system for him and have better cover behind him in order to be able to fix that issue that we had there. Like how Trent is with Liverpool, for example. He's so good going forward offensively that the team has issues defensively because he's caught up the pitch so much. So we need to fix how we cover and how we help our teammate. That's the first problem. The other side, yes, Ortega was fucking shite and has been really disappointing lately. But I don't trust Kinney to fucking cross the street. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I really don't trust him to do anything.
Yep.
Omar Richards, we haven't seen enough of him. Like you said, would I play him? Yeah, I probably would. Who would I play him against? Who's the sixth team in the playoffs? Is it Lamia? I'd play him against Lamia. Yeah. I'd play him in both games against Lamia. I'd play him against Ari. Like, let's see how it goes. Give it a shout. Do you know what I mean? Even though Panathinaikos are really, really bad at the moment, I wouldn't play it against them just because of how important that game is. Like, yeah, PAOK and AEK are the better teams, but Panathinaikos is always Panathinaikos. So, like, it's bragging rights. It's your big opponents. Then we move on to the centre backs. I mean, Retsos was playing like a little chicken today. He was playing like a baby. He was playing like a child. He was so scared. He just looked. Yeah. He just looked like Slukas in the final against Real Madrid. Like he just looked like he didn't belong in a big time situation, unfortunately. And it's sad because he's been through so much, especially at the end of last season and at the start, and then because he was getting so much hate because he was shit. But at the start of this season, he looked like he turned it around. And and everyone was getting like, "Come on, he's got this. You've got this." And then, but he just, it was just didn't. It was just yeah, weak mentality. Like I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but like just too much of a sissy, like too scared. And the same with Carmo, which is surprising considering he's sort of come in like this sort of
Calming presence. And he
really
sucked today
calm
too.
and
Like,
present.
he was
Yeah,
not good. He
he
was
was
not
not.
good today.
It looked as if basically the defenders, especially the centre backs, looked as if they were playing in the Bernabeu against Real Madrid, not in the Karaiskaki against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Basically, that was it. Ήταν χεσμένοι. They looked like they
Yeah.
shat themselves. And
Yeah.
and that's not acceptable in the Conference League. Like even the best team in the Conference League, what is it? Aston Villa probably. Yeah, they're like fourth in the Prem, so they're probably the best team in it. Still left. Even if you're playing at Villa Park, you cannot be that scared. Do you know what I mean? You're not
Yep.
like I don't understand it. You've played in big games before. What the fuck? If it was the final, maybe I'd get it. Like it's your first ever European final. Maybe I understand the nerves. But in that game against Maccabi Tel Aviv. So yeah, I think I touched on everything defensively because that's what you asked defensively.
Well, right. And then but then my thing, so building on that, right? So we talked about this based on the European list we have. Like, what would you have done anything different today with the defensive line? No.
Personnel
Are
wise,
you
no,
yeah, like
no.
the
Personnel
only
wise,
question
no. They're
would
the best
be
players we have.
right. The only question maybe is like, okay, maybe there's an argument about Omar Richards versus Ortega, but no one realistically is going to do that. And Rodinei had a bad game today, but he's one of our best players on the season. And we overlook his defensive issues because he's been such an important presence for us moving forward that we have to look past it, because especially a guy that progresses the ball the most into the final third for us this season, actually both him and Heze are the ones that have done that, which is surprising to me on the latter. But you're not benching him. So realistically, the problem that we have to solve, well, what we can solve, I should say, the choices that we can make to actually affect change is not starting from the back line.
No,
It actually
100%.
is stemming from further forward.
But
And go
that's
ahead,
the
Dimitri.
defensive thing. No, but this is what links into it. That changing defensively starts from further up because I think
Exactly.
you have a player like Masurasin. Those counterattacks aren't happening like that because you have this dog coming in and just challenging and stopping up the play and just basically bringing up everyone with him, and that won't
Yep.
happen. And you have
Yep.
that cover for your right back and your left back, and so it starts from there. I think it starts from like the forward line and the leadership and the willingness that they show defensively. Sorry, I interrupted you,
Right.
but that's just something
No,
that
no, no.
really pissed
Yeah,
me off.
no. But I'm with you there. I'm with you there. And it's just unfortunate because we had players that normally have been so good for us that didn't show up today. And I want to touch on the midfield too, because I haven't yet touched on that specifically, because I'm seeing a ton of hate here for Heze. I'm seeing a lot of people saying he's mediocre. There's a few people saying he sucks. He was responsible for 3 of our 4 goals. I saw somebody say that he loses the ball easily. And I'm trying to find out what that means. He loses the ball easily, because a guy that I only saw misplace the ball 3 times today. I don't know how that's losing the ball today. I'm looking at his losses, and he has the second least losses on the team for the whole game. Now, if we're going to talk about and debate his fault, his fault in the goals, okay, the first goal maybe he doesn't clear that. The second goal, I don't see how that's his fault, but maybe we're not talking about that. The third goal, I'm also trying to figure out where his fault is. And I hope people realize, because he's covering, we've showed the heat maps for Heze before. He covers that right side a lot because Rodinei advances so far forward. What do you want him to do on an odd man rush? I don't understand. Santiago Heze is covering a guy that's overlapping, and today on multiple transitions, he was 2-on-1 against. What do you want him to do? I don't understand what your problem with Heze is. Was Heze at fault for I didn't think he had the best game today, but I didn't think it was terrible.
I can't even remember the third goal. I'm not going to lie to you.
Babyface, 95 pass accuracy parallel. He leads our team right now in passes to the final third. So that's false. I don't know where this is coming from. I posted the stats the other day. He has the most final third completed passes on the team per 90 minutes, period. He leads our team in interceptions, period.
His problem today, I agree. His problem today was not his passing. And I don't think it's ever been his passing.
No.
His problem stemmed, and this is why people have this opinion of him, and this is why I'm pissed off with him. But he is clearly at fault at the first goal.
Of course, because he missed
the first goal. The first goal. It's not just he's clearly at fault. The first goal is fully his fault, in my opinion. It's one of those individual errors that leads to goals. It's of course. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a back pass to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper just misses the clearance, basically. From that moment onwards, it's in everyone's head. Heze's at fault that we're losing 1-0 to Maccabi Tel Aviv in the 7th minute, 6th minute, 5th. I don't even remember how early on it was. I hadn't even made it home. I was watching on my phone. So from that point onwards, so the hate that he's getting today is because of that bias originally. And then people are finding reasons to pick on it further. Now, his passing wasn't an issue as much for me today. It was more of him and Chiquinho, and the way that we were playing basically exposed them defensively big time. Because every time Maccabi were hitting us on the counter, it was what I was saying earlier. It was like we were playing 10 men in their box. Like, it was just empty. And when there's that space, you expect your CDM and your central midfielder, your 6 and your 8, to be cutting up play. Those are the two main players that you're expecting to be sitting. Your deepest midfielder is the person that you're sort of hoping is good enough to sort of break up the play and stop it. And that was my issue more than his passing. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I don't remember going, "Oh my God, another fucking stupid pass by Heze." Like, I don't remember saying that. I don't remember thinking that. But I do remember thinking, fuck, he's fucked us with that first goal. And fuck, we always look so open on the counter-attack. Who do you usually blame for the counter-attack? You can't always blame the wing-backs because that's a style of play. We're playing with the wing-backs really far forward. You can't blame the centre-backs because the centre-backs are meant to be really far back. Who's meant to be covering? It's the deep-lying midfielders.
It is. Now, I get what you're saying, Dimitri,
again,
but
it might not be their fault. But it looks as if it's their fault because they're meant to be in that position covering. Do you know what I mean? So it might not necessarily be their fault, but the way it looks, it screams, "Where's your 6?
Of course it does. But remember, these days we don't have a double pivot anymore. We play with only Heze marking in front of the defensive side. And Chiquinho is moving forward as well. And he alternates with Heze. And then you have Horta playing in the front. The second goal, I'm still trying to think where in God's name it's Heze's fault alone. For me, Carmo is the one that just gives up. Now, I get it. Carmo had card trouble. So maybe that's why he just stops. But I'm sorry. I'm really trying to find why the second goal is on Heze, because it's not. The second goal I don't put on Heze. I would agree that, okay, everybody has a part in it. If this is how we're dissecting it, right? He has a part in it if we're saying that he didn't stop the ball being played in, because I don't remember who gets beat before the ball gets played. I
can't remember, but
in that respect, if you're saying he has fault there, because I saw somebody say, I think it was Babyface also, that said on the fourth goal he didn't stop the cross.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying my issue isn't necessarily with a set play, because the second goal wasn't a fast break, was it? Like, we had guys behind the ball. They were in the left side of our defense, and they basically played it amongst themselves a little bit there. Then Carmo gets beat as he's running along the touchline, and he's just basically doesn't put in a challenge. So it's not like, I mean, you expect your CDM to be a little bit more involved in that situation, but that's not necessarily what I'm getting at. It's more of a, It's more of a, when you're watching the game and you see how open we are on the transition, even if it doesn't lead to goals, you're just going, fuck, they could score again. They could have scored 7 the way that they're going forward. Do you know what I mean? They're just running at us as if it's a 95th minute and we have everyone forward, including our goalkeeper.
So just to take it back here, because Babyface is saying, look at the second goal from the beginning, because Hazard gets beat. Well, who gave up the ball in the midfield for the transition to happen? When the counter happened, who gave the ball up before that happened? If this is how we're going to nitpick every phase of this, he's at fault because he gets beat in the midfield. Who gave the ball up in the mid? Ask yourself the question: Who gave the ball Who gave the ball up in the midfield? That's then who's directly at fault for that transition. If this is how we're going to play the nitpickiness, like the answer to that question, I believe that's correct. I think it was Horta as well, Alex. That's who I thought it was. But I'll go back when I do the replay and I'll rewatch the game. But like, this is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, if we're going to nitpick each person for their marker and everything, then everybody's at fault for almost all 4 goals because everybody missed their markers. People, I don't remember if it was Babyface or Gerasimos. You didn't like us picking on Retsos. Retsos missed his marker almost every time. How are the center backs missing their markers on every single one of the balls being played in the penalty area? That means they share the blame for all of it. I don't necessarily believe all that. I think people are being a little bit harsh on Hezeb. I think, first of all, I don't think anybody had a great game today. That's the unfortunate part. Our players that we've come to rely on for a lot of things, some of them didn't show up today. Podence, in particular, didn't show up today. Rodinei had probably his worst game for Olympiacos. Does that make Rodinei a terrible player? Absolutely not.
No, because
this is just a really bad day for some of our best players to have a shit game. Like, that's it, guys. And it's not the same case it was under Carvajal, where we look shit and created nothing. We did create. We just also conceded.
But the one thing that is constant from Carvajal was the attitude.
Yes.
Like, that is a big problem. And when you have a coach like Mendilibar who prides himself in defensive, just being really solid at the back and having the right attitude and basically like doing the basics right, that is a problem. That is worrying, and that pissed me off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I get that. But when we're getting mad at some players that haven't rested and that have played, especially like we also know, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, Rodinei, Nikolakopoulos said he was not 100% going into this game today, but he was going to play anyway. We knew that. We knew that Rodinei came in and he had something and he looked like it. I mean, he didn't have a bad game for no reason. And perfect time because Costa's here. Costa, tell us, break this up a little bit for us. Tell us how you saw the game. Everybody seems to have their own scapegoats for the match today. Tell us, and by everyone, I'm talking about the chat here. Tell us how you saw the game today, what you're thinking.
Well, I mean, hello to everyone. It's been a while since my last appearance in the show. I just ended a 7-day stretch at work. Well, basically, to me, this whole thing was Groundhog Day. This is another Olympiacos choke in the last 16 of a major European competition. We pretty much saw the same with Metalist Kharkiv. We saw the same with Dynamo Kiev. We saw the same with Atalanta. We saw the same with Wolves. We have seen that quite a few times. Something going wrong, a bit of misfortune, or just the players dropping the baton, which we certainly saw the latter tonight at Giorgos Karaiskakis. Before the match, surely you guys have already called for everyone to like and subscribe and join our Patreon group, where we have a very interesting WhatsApp group. And I sent a message to the WhatsApp group this morning, and I asked for everyone to understand that we're all in the uppers. Before the match, we were all still on the uppers. And you, Ari, you mentioned it, that there was going to be an awkward landing, and there was a disastrous landing. today. We hoped it wouldn't be as bad as it was tonight, but it turned out it was a horrendous landing. A PR who worked with Antonio Conte at Tottenham, she told me that one thing she tried to teach him was don't be too excited when things go well. Don't be too down when things are not going well. And that's something Olympiacos fans need to understand right now. You guys have mentioned a few names here, and I have to say, like, everybody was terrible tonight. There was no saving grace in this match. I remember hearing people having to go at Carmo, who's by far our best defender, and we're certainly going to miss him next season if the transfer geeks drop the ball. I heard about it. Horta wasn't good. Chiquinho wasn't good. Fortunis wasn't good. Potenza wasn't good. Maybe Ayub El Kabi was a bit of a shining light on this one, but still nothing
He
enough
missed
to
two sitters.
warrant.
He still missed two sitters too.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say is that the wonderful thing about this podcast is that we are being watched from all over the world, from all sorts of different Olympiacos fans, and that's incredible. At the same time, because we're being watched by people from around the world, I fear sometimes that those people are too hasty to mistake Olympiacos with the kind of teams that they watch in their respective leagues. A lot of the times when they think about Olympiacos, they think in an English way, they think in a French way, they think in a Spanish way, in an Italian way, in a German way. Guys, Olympiacos is a Greek club. Okay? Olympiacos is a Greek club with a Greek budget and a Greek owner. We're not owned by Saudis. We're not owned by Qataris. We're not owned by Americans. It's a Greek guy that owns us. Okay? It's a very much a Greek person who owns us right now. And consider this, despite all that, despite the fact that we still had another terrible season, a turbulent season that could still end up in a horrible manner if Aris win the cup, we're still where we are in Europe right now. In the last 16 attempts, Olympiacos have made it to the knockout stages of a major European competition 14 times. Even though we're not Real Madrid, we're not Liverpool, we're not Paris Saint-Germain, we still did that. And we're still doing this. And I'm getting to my point right now that on paper, Olympiacos should have thrashed Maccabi Tel Aviv tonight. That score that we saw tonight, it should have been the other way around. That's on paper. But when it comes to big European competitions, you're not going to beat your opponent because of who you are. You're going to beat your opponent because of what you are. Brighton were thrashed by Roma 4-0 tonight.
4-0, yeah.
4-0. Brighton, who are still very, very impressive in the Premier League. They're out. They're pretty much out unless they pull off another Premier League masterpiece, which I don't think they're going to do because of what they are. They are not an experienced European side. They're very new to this. On paper, Man City should have won the Champions League at least 3 times by now. They won it once last year by kicking and screaming. Paris Saint-Germain should have won it 3 times by now. But they haven't done it because of what they are. Real Madrid are the record holders, and they are the one and only team to win the competition on consecutive years. Not because necessarily they were the best teams, but because they are the Champions League. Real Madrid are the Champions League. European football is Real Madrid. That's why they're doing this. Olympiacos, unfortunately, I don't want to be horrible towards the club, but they're not the kind of European club that they should be. It's no coincidence we have not even come close to the quarterfinals since 1993 in the UEFA Cup / Europa League or the Champions League from 1999. The only reason we can't do it is because we keep choking in this big stage. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. We choked against Wolves. We choked against Atalanta, just like we choked against Metalist Kharkiv, just like we choked with Maccabi Tel Aviv tonight. It doesn't matter who our opponent is. There's something going on. Is it maybe the fact that there's this toxic obsession with the Greek title? Maybe it's the holy grail that turns out to be this poison chalice? No matter what you do, you gotta win the league. That's what matters. We have to be the kings of the road. We have to beat those assholes from PAOK, Panathinaikos, and AEK. We always choke. That's the thing. Olympiacos choke at this point of the competition. So
well, Mendilibar
yes,
brought that up too in his post-match, Costa. He had said that there's clearly a mentality issue. He had brought that up. So
and kudos to him. If anything, guys, this result just proves that it is the end of an era at Olympiacos right now. The thrashings from teams that should not have thrashed Olympiacos keep piling up. Maccabi Haifa, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Freiburg, Karabag. Am I missing someone? Hopefully I am missing someone here. They are kind of piling up right now. So time for Mr. Evangelos Marinakis to pull up those sleeves, because he's going to have 18 players out of contract in June. And it's time to get with a situation right now. The first step to solving a problem is to admit you got a problem right now. This is a warning of how things can go for Olympiacos. I am not confident they're going to turn this around at Batska Topola, which, remember, this is going to be a ball ache of a journey getting to Batska Topola, because Olympiacos now have to travel to Belgrade, and then it's like at least a 90-minute bus ride to get to Batska Topola, which is close to the Hungarian border. So we can go all in all about how bad each player was. They were all bad. Jose Luis Mendilibar picked the right lineup, in my opinion, tonight. That was the best lineup he could have picked. Maybe he could have chosen Yorgos Masouras and Kini to come on after halftime. Maybe that's his only mistake I can actually find. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm starting to see a mentality issue. Like I said, at this point in the competition, you're not going to eliminate your opponent, whoever your opponent is, because of who you are. You're going to do it because of what you are.
Two quick things, Costa.
I have two as well, so that makes it four.
First is there was a comment here, and I wanted to talk about this player briefly. Nolan Lindner-Fox brought up Milson. Sign him tomorrow. What a player. He killed Rodinei. I'm pretty sure he switched sides and nutmegged Ortega too once in this game. Milson, for me, was their best player. Like, outside of Zahavi, I mean, Milson was crazy today. I had to do a double take when I saw his number. I was like, who is this guy? This guy is all over the place. He's very squirrely. So a little shout out for him. I think that's a solid player. But I do also have a little bit of a worry. And I don't know how this gets fixed. But for a couple of years now, the Yorgos Karaskaki Stadium has just stopped being a castle. It is not a castle for Olympiacos anymore. The Karaskaki for so long was the place where we did not lose. Teams came in, you did not want to play there. Now it's a place where we get we eat 4 goals here, 5 goals there, not just in Europe, but against our rivals too. When did that happen? When did that trend start? Last few, that is a problem. This is a huge problem. Even with what we saw today, and I find it to be a little bit unacceptable as well. How do we change this? How do we bring this back? Anyone have any ideas? Because that's the scariest part for me. Dimitri, go ahead, buddy.
I've got an idea. I think I know what's happened, and so my thing is, these games against today Maccabi or Freiburg or Maccabi Haifa or Kolopetica from some Albanian village in the middle of nowhere, the fans that go to these games, the Piraeus show, the ultras, the Piraeus, they're not there. The singing, the chanting isn't as much, at least from the TV. It doesn't have the same atmosphere that you used to see against Milan 3-4 years ago. One was that Europa League game that we won 3-1, that we needed to win by 2 goals difference, and we won 3-1 with the La Casa de Papel Correo. The games against Panathinaikos, for example, that the flares, the pit, it's honestly red. I'm not not supporting people throwing shit, and I'm not supporting people doing illegal shit. However, the atmosphere, you want to create an intimidating atmosphere, and this is what we're well known for. This is when Juventus, when Atletico Madrid, when United, when they come to play against Olympiacos, they're scared because they know that you have a fucking jungle around you. Literally a jungle of fans going absolutely berserk. And we don't have that in these games anymore because no one really cares as much as they do compared to games like West Ham, which was our best European game this season because they're a big team. So people go to these games and they're like, right, we've got to give it everything. Like we got to be the 12th man. But you play against these smaller teams and people are expecting to win, and they jump on the team the minute something goes wrong. And the fans, the performance of the fans isn't the same. It's not. You don't have the Piraeus, you don't have the Piraeus, you don't have the singing in the same way. You just don't. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. Like, at least that's my opinion. At least that's my opinion. The Champions League. Oh my God, this is fuck. Those were the days. But these big European games, right? These big European games used to all look like EuroLeague playoff games, like the games. Do you remember the game against Monaco that Kevin Durant went to, and it literally looked like the apocalypse? That's what these games used to look like in football. Every single European game, and it was genuinely a jungle, and it's not happening anymore. And that's what's changed, and that's what we need to change as fans, without any violence or any stupidity. Okay. There is no way I'm advocating violence, and none of us would ever do that. However, we need to have an intimidating atmosphere, and we don't. I personally think it's easy for teams to come into our ground nowadays.
But isn't there a little bit of chicken and egg with that, Dimitri? Like, so for the fans to want to come and to sing and to do all of this, right? One has to be a good product on the field. Now, I believe in the last few weeks, we had that win streak. The product is better than it's been all season. So you have that. But then two, there has to be at some level a connection to the teams on the field. And we've gone through how many managers and players. So where is the consistency for that connection? It's with a few players, a handful that have actually stayed here for a while, and it's the Greeks, the Greek players, and then maybe Podence counts because he was here before. You know what I mean? So you have there isn't. You have to have a little bit of both, right? You need one to have the other, but then at the same time, you're right. Like in order to have the players also playing, we need to consistently make that atmosphere that hasn't had the same atmosphere that there's been there before.
Adi, I completely agree that the players need to give something to the fans for the fans to cheer, because like you see the change with how basketball gets a sellout crowd every European game nowadays, because you know what you're getting. You're getting the team, even win, lose, draw, which you can't get in basketball, but you're gonna get them dying on that court for the team, for the shirt, right? In football, you don't get that. However, as fans, it's 3 home games in the league in the group stage, and then a couple in the knockouts. It's not. I'm not saying it should be every week. I'm not saying it should be against Lamia and against Volos. I'm saying it should be half a dozen times this season.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying
that's what I'm saying. Even if what they're offering is fucking shit. And don't get me wrong, I am one of the biggest critics when it comes down to attitude and passion of the players. Right. Skill-wise, do you know what? That's the least of my issues. But attitude and skill-wise, I will always criticize it if I don't think they're playing with a passion that they should be doing, and the attitude. But as fans, if we can give them that incentive and that backup in these big games, then I think it will help. But that's the thing. We don't think they're big games because we're thinking we should be trashing them. It's like what Costa said. That scoreline should have been 4-1 to us. And people going in with that mindset going, oh, yeah, it's easy. Like, I'm just going to chill. Not I'm going to chill, but like, I'm going to have my patatakia and like, drink my beer. But you need to go as if you're like, it's like, you know, that energy needs to be there from the fans too. At least that's what I think. 3 games a year. It's not a lot to ask for.
especially when your club is your roster value is worth 5 times what Maccabi Tel Aviv's is. Not these days, I know. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, look at Fiorentina. It took a red card for them to finally end up beating Maccabi Haifa earlier. And what are they, like 200, 300 million value club versus Haifa, which is like, what, 40, 50? So the whole situation is annoying. But there is a comment here that I want to hear your guys' opinion on. Dimitri, if you have time, that is. And it's from a guy I've never seen in here before. So welcome, Climber Kiba. The problem of Olympiacos is that because you want a match against Balk away from home, from a team that at the moment doesn't play good football, and because you advanced at a conference league over a dead team, Ferencvaros, you suddenly believe you can become Barcelona and you'll get the Super League and you'll also take the conference league, blah, blah, blah. Makes me laugh. I am sorry.
No.
Yes.
No
The context
Primer.
is I see what he's saying, but he has the context completely wrong. The reason it's wrong is because we were in a level that was so shit under Carvajal before. That's why we were excited now. We're seeing something we haven't seen in 2 years. But that's my take. Costa, go ahead.
No. I mean, first of all, to answer your question about Karaiskaki, to me, the problem is it has nothing to do with the stands. It has to do with the pitch. Because, I mean, back in the day when I was a kid, that incredible atmosphere we would see at Oaxaca or at Rizupoli, and then later the new Karaiskaki, you had players like Anatolakis, like Amanatidis, like Alexandris, like Georgievich, like Giannakopoulos. There were personalities that brought the stands to the pitch. If you're new, if you're foreign, if you still don't understand what Olympiacos is all about, those guys would make you understand. That thing doesn't exist in this team right now. In a team that, let's face it, it is being run by a trigger-happy owner, who, in my opinion, another little thing that I feel like Olympiacos need to understand is that just because you got thrashed, it is not the end of the world. You don't need to push the panic button because of one thrashing. Of course, you need to learn. Of course, you need to show some will. Of course, you need to start tightening the ropes. But just like with what's happening at Nottingham Forest in the Premier League, just because you're at a relegation battle doesn't mean it's time to push the panic button. It happens, kind of thing. But you just need to make sure this doesn't become a this doesn't happen often. That's what you need to find. You need to find that balance, basically. Olympiacos never felt like Barcelona. Olympiacos, remember the kind of season they've had under Diego Martinez and Carlos Carvalhal. I was here on this show quite a few times. I was on the Patreon group and I was telling you, everyone, it's fantastic, guys, that everyone's so happy, but I'm letting you know that bubble's going to burst at some point. So let's be ready for this. It's just, it goes back to my monologue, you guys, and I'm not going to go back to my monologue. It's the kind of situation that Olympiacos find themselves at this stage of European competition. For some reason, when they find themselves in the last 16, it's just the whole thing, there's just nothing. And I'm starting to feel like maybe just like Brighton are unable to balance Europe and the Premier League, just like Villa are going to have to decide whether or not their focus is on the conference or finishing in the top 4. So basically, Villa need to decide, do I want to win a European competition, the third best European competition, or do I want to go to the Champions League next season? And they don't have the experience to decide to juggle. I feel like Olympiacos still haven't figured that out. They still haven't figured out the balance, because there's Panathinaikos. Well, you got Panathinaikos coming up. And let me ask you a question, guys. What would anyone prefer here? Olympiacos beating Maccabi Tel Aviv 4-1 tonight and losing to Panathinaikos in the weekend, or the other way around? Like losing to Maccabi Tel Aviv the way you lost and then beating Panathinaikos. It's a game of narratives. If Olympiacos beat Panathinaikos this weekend, it's going to be a completely different mood. And there will be those, overexcited people who are going to be thinking, yeah, let's go to Batskantopol and score 3 goals now. It's just the balance. For me, we still haven't figured out the balance.
Speaking on that, Costa, I'll revisit the poll real quick because we have the poll going up. The question was, do you think we can turn this around in the second leg? And right now, 70% of the audience says no. It's pretty
Me
resounding.
included. Me included.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what the 30% are smoking. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
No,
but
but Ari, sorry to interrupt you. If we beat Panathinaikos in the weekend, I want us to put back that poll on. I want us to put that poll back up.
Oh, you already
If
read
we
my
beat
mind, because
Panathinaikos.
that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do.
they're gonna be smoking the stronger stuff if we beat Panathinaikos. That's what it is, man. Like, come on, be realistic, guys.
Yeah, that's the only way. Honestly, the only way I could see this turning around in Serbia is if we score in like the first 5 or 10 minutes. If there's a goal in the first 5 or 10 minutes, then I believe. Then I would believe, like, hey, there's something. Maybe we can get this done. But if we don't score right in the beginning, if we don't score first 5-10 minutes, it's not happening. That's how I see it.
The only way I see it is one of their defenders 2-foots our player on like his stomach or something within the first 2 minutes, and they play with 10 men for the
Or
whole game.
karate kicks Masuras in the face.
No, to be fair, Masuras can probably carry on playing. So yeah,
Well,
out
he
of all the
did. That's
players,
why I
he's
brought it
probably
up.
the one
Barrientos
who'll
did it
take
to
it
him.
and then just carry on. So yeah, but yeah, I the only way I can see it is if they play with a player less. If they get a quick red card, like even if we score early on, there's no way they're not going to score against us. If we play like how we did today, like
Now,
and because we're going to be pushing forwards, we're going to be so open defensively.
Now, last thing before we go into coach's grade and wrap things up here because it's getting late. Do you think this loss is going to destroy our momentum going into the Panathinaikos game?
Personally, no. And the reason why I'm saying no is because I think Mendilibar is more serious and more old school than Martinez and Carvajal were. So I think he's sort of just gonna. He gives me. I know he's not as crazy as Bielsa, but he gives me that sort of vibe. He gives me really old school, like just old managers. I don't know, like the sort of person you're scared of. The sort of person that as a player, you know is gonna bollock you, and he's gonna work you hard. So I'm hoping that is the case, and that he basically just gets them tomorrow and just like sit down, shut up, watch tape. This is what we're gonna fix. Forget about it. Move on. Which is why I don't think it's going to affect our form. But at the start of the show, if you remember, I said my biggest worry is if this affects the next game and then it's a downward spiral, because these players are very, very weak mentally. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think we've got a lot of very unstrong mental players. I don't want to say weak again. I might be too harsh. But they might not have the mental strength to perform, to not let their heads drop. And I'm worried. And the reason why I think that's not going to happen is because of Mendilibar. But if it does happen, we're fucked, if that makes sense. So I don't think it's going to happen, but I do worry about it.
I'm with you, Dimitri. Costa, what's your take?
Well, I mean, Jose Luis Mendilibar came to Olympiacos with absolutely no preseason and absolutely no single player of his own, no single pick of his own. He came to an absolute shambles of a team. I personally believe that if we still had Carvajal, we would have been eliminated by Ferencvaros. We would have lost to PAOK. And, well, the Aris fans would have been really, really liking their chances right now, especially after making the Greek Cup final. Jose Luis Mendilibar came to Olympiacos and within just a couple of days turned Olympiacos into a team. With his knowledge, with his experience, with his character. So I do agree with Dimitris. I do believe Mendilibar is the kind of guy who is going to set things straight. He is going to bring back this, he's going to impose this goldfish memory mentality. Okay, guys, what happened with the Maccabi was terrible, but you know what? Right now it's Panathinaikos. We forget about everything. So yes, Mendilibar turned Olympiacos went on to win 5 consecutive matches under Jose Luis Mendilibar following a nightmare stint under Carlos Carvajal. Mendilibar did it in a couple of days. I think he can sort them out right now. He can make them remember the immense success they had before the Maccabi Tel Aviv game. And that could lead that could at least help them focus against Panathinaikos. And I have a feeling they're going to show a better. They're going to be better against Panathinaikos this weekend. Because, like I said, I don't feel like Olympiacos still understand how to juggle Europe and Greece, especially at this point. Because right now it's the playoffs, and Olympiacos want to win the title. The games against Panathinaikos are always different. Just like Aris always play better against PAOK, Olympiacos are going to play better against Panathinaikos. I'm confident of that. And if we beat them, there's going to be immense confidence ahead of Batska Topola.
I see that. I see it. Well, boys and girls, we're going to move on to we'll just do coach's grade. We're not going to do man of the match. I'm not giving anybody a man of the match in this disaster class. So we'll get started. Who wants to go first? You know what, Costa, you go first. Give us your coach's grade today.
Well, like I said, Jose Luis Mendilibar chose the best kind of lineup he could have chosen. Who was missing from this lineup? You said it yourselves. Omar Richards hasn't played enough. He comes back. He recently came back from a horrible injury. He hasn't really had a good game so far. Nothing. He hasn't had a memorable performance all season. Who was missing? No one was missing from this team. There was no one else that should have started ahead of anyone else. Yorgos Masouras, someone will say, well, on one hand, you got Kostas Fortounis, who has been an anchor all season, and on the other is Daniel Podence, who has been enjoying a resurrection under Jose Luis Mendilibar. So lineup was perfect. From then on, I feel like it was the players that just never showed up. Like Mendilibar cannot come on the pitch and score the goals. He cannot come on the pitch and, make them play. They need to play, and none of them was present. None of them showed up for this match. My only complaint is that he didn't make any changes during halftime. I feel like Kini and Yorgos Masouras should have come on, my opinion. But then again, I mean, it was a terrible loss, so he's going to get a C, because I feel like as a manager, he got most of his things right. He most of the things he should have done, he did them right. The lineup, the changes. He was always standing, always shouting instructions, but the players didn't show up. And the only reason he's not getting a better grade than C is because Olympiacos got thrashed.
Dimitri.
Yeah, I disagree with Costa about the best possible lineup. I'm a big fan of Masouras, and I think in a team like Olympiacos that doesn't have leadership personalities, that doesn't have that doesn't have many players that give everything for the shirt, I think a player like Masouras is needed, especially in a game like today.
Whose place does he take?
I think he takes. I don't think you can have Fortounis and Podence in a game like this together. Neither of them are as good defensively. What they offer offensively is quite similar, because they're both creative players. They're both players that can shoot from outside the box. They can dribble well, get the through ball. Who would I have out in this situation? I don't know. See, I'm not the biggest fan of Fortounis. However, he delivers. He had the assist. If it wasn't for his excellent ball that basically put the goal on a plate for Maccabi, might not have happened. But at the same time, Podence was getting shat on the entire first half and being non-existent. But I thought he was arguably our best player in the second half. I mean, yes, he didn't have much competition, but he was much better in the second half. So I'd pick it out of a hat. I'd go random who I'd drop. It really doesn't make a difference for me, but I drop one of them at the start of the game. Because Masouras for me is crucial. You need a player like Masouras, but that's the kind of football that I believe in, and the kind of style, and everyone is different. So I'm not saying that you're wrong, Costa. I'm just saying that I disagree on that. I also have an issue with the way that the team, after about the 5th minute, was going all out attack as if the world was ending. There is absolutely no excuse for our transition defense to be that bad, and don't get me wrong, the players' attitude was shit. for that, right? They were really bad at getting back. Like that fourth goal is shocking. However, at the same time, you can't tell me that it's not the manager telling them to go up like that. Like they can't have just decided, yes, we're all gonna Burya everyone forward. Like there's no way they just decided that and someone said that on the pitch, let's go by everyone. So I have a feeling that that was part of his game plan. And that's another thing that I hold against him. So with that in mind, I don't think he gets a passing grade, right? C is a passing grade, right? I don't think he gets a passing grade. Conceding 4 at home to Maccabi and a defensive display that bad with that many gaps. And on top of that, me not thinking that he had the right lineup, I can't give him a C. I have to give him a D. Like, so it sounds really harsh, but and I'm not.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
I don't think the world is over. I'm not that kind of fan. I'm not a pessimist. So this isn't from a pessimistic side. It's come from a realistic side. Like when there's something to criticize, I criticize. So I think he got it wrong today, and it happens. And I'm not calling for his head or anything like that. I just thought he got it wrong, and that's it. Hopefully he fixes it. I have a feeling he is going to fix it. He looks like a serious coach. So I hope
he is a fixer. That's exactly what he is. Yeah. He is a fixer.
So I think he's got it. Let's see. Let's hopefully he proves us right. And I'm not just talking about Panathinaikos. I'm talking about next Thursday. Because losing 4-1, like you expect the players to go there and just not care. I want them to care. Because I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to be at work, but I'm going to have it on my phone and I'm going to be trying to watch it. And a lot of us are going to be watching it. So that's what it is. Yeah. A D.
I hear you. And especially for this Sunday, because this derby against Panathinaikos, the first playoff match, is on March 10th, which is our club's anniversary. So somebody better be in the locker room, whether it was after the game today or leading up to the match, say, guys, Sunday's a very important day. And it's a very important day that you guys come out and you give everything, because it's a really important day for this club. Now, that being said, for me today, I'm not quite as pessimistic as you are about the match today, but I'm also not quite as optimistic as Costa was. I in agreement with Costa. I also thought I was okay with the lineup. I did have my own little I guess concern over the fact that both Costa and Podence were starting today, but other than that, I thought it was, quite frankly, our strongest lineup. A lot of the goals that were scored today, unfortunately, individual mistakes again. I did think that there were times we overcommitted today, just in general. And when you go down, maybe that's the risk that you take. My major issues were the lack of changes at halftime when we clearly were still too open. I wanted a change. There's a couple of changes I wanted. And I understand, I guess, why Chiquinho came off first, but I was looking for a little bit different change. I wanted Jovetic to come on sooner. He's a very creative option for us, and I think he should have come on a little bit sooner. I think Kostas Fortounis should have come off sooner as well, because he just looked dead to me. He looked dead to me. I'm not gonna necessarily slam his performance today, compared to anybody else, but he looked dead. He looked tired. And I think he should have been sub probably sooner. Daniel Podence is another one that probably should have been, aside from a couple of plays here and there, he was more or less invisible. So all of that being said, even though I was okay with the starting lineup today, I wanted changes to come quicker, and they didn't come. So for me, a D, I think, is a little bit too harsh, especially when I don't find a lot of the goals to necessarily be Mendilibar's fault, but at the same time, even a C, I think, is still too good for him. So I'm going to sit in the C- range. And that's where my coach's grade is going to be for tonight. I'm going to sit in that C- because I think there's a lot better that could have been done. But at the same time, I don't blame him for everything that happened tonight. So there you have it, guys. That's our coach's grade. And do you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up before we go ahead and close things up here?
Yeah, before we close, can I take a 2-3 minute monologue just to talk about the basketball? Give them a shout out.
Of course,
okay.
Man.
Yeah, so basically, despite what I've just been saying, I'm in a much better mood than I would have been because of the basketball team. I know a lot of you guys were watching it. The group chat was popping off. It would have been such a great like celebration for Olympiacos fans going to the football, winning against Maccabi, and then crossing the street and going to Sef to watch a really, really good game of basketball. Bologna were 1 win ahead of us in the standings. They were third, fourth, and we were sixth. And we basically really needed this win. And the team was really bad in the first half defensively. We were missing our main point guard. We were missing our leader. Despite what Slukas thinks, Walkup is our leader. He's our main man. He's the brain of the team. And it was obvious in the first half. Defensively, conceding 46 points for a team that sort of prides itself on its defense is really, really worrying. And Costa with the C had messaged before the game going, I'm really worried we might actually lose this. And I said, stop it. I don't need that right now. And then the first half, I was like, oh my God, he might actually be right. We're just not giving. It's not for a lack of effort. It was just our defensively, we were just not there. And it was worrying because defense is what wins us our games. It's not our offense, it's our defense. And conceding 46 points is problematic. But then second half, man, Bartokas, I don't know what he gave them, his like a special potion, like MJ's magic juice, or he Tuserix Christopanagies, and he basically cussed out their mums and everything they believe in. Which is quite very Barzokas thing to do, but he turned it all around, I think, and we came out that second half being fucking incredible, playing like absolute dogs. Like if you saw the Instagram post, I put the who let the dogs out music on top of the post, because literally it was like they were animals. They were incredible. They reminded me of that Monaco semi-final game in the final four. Literally, like, kept Maccabi to what? Not Maccabi was football. Kept Bologna to 5 points. 5 points in a quarter in the EuroLeague. Like, I'm sorry, what? Who does that? Incredible, absolutely incredible. And they managed to close it out. They didn't just win; they also got the difference. So if we finish tied with Bologna, we're ahead of them because of the tiebreaker, because of the points differential. So overall, really, really fixed my mood and sold out again. 11,000 people went to watch the game. The fans were cheering. It was loud. It was popping. Like, it's exactly what you need. And they basically showed the football team what they need to do. Like, they need to play like a team, and they need to play with that intensity and with that strong character and that mentality that the football team unfortunately doesn't have. And the basketball team's had it for a few years now. And it's not just Barzokas, it's the players. Like, I think that team can win. Yes, Barzokas is amazing, and he wins most of the games with his tactics. But if you put that team coachless, they're going to give every other team a very, very, very tough run, because the way they play with each other and the way everything just runs brilliantly. The automatismi, which is what's that word in English? Basically just knowing how the other guy plays and how it all works.
Automations.
Yeah, how they bounce off each other is incredible. And missing your main point guard, your main center, him or Milutinov or Far, missing a player like Larentzakis who brings that energy, and Nigel Williams-Goss playing with 1 day of training, and Mitro Long playing with half a day of training. Incredible. And it's, I don't know, for a huge basketball fan like myself, it's not just amazing, and that doesn't just make me happy. It also makes the disappointment of the football sort of, it eases it. So yeah, just needed to give them. Gerasimos said it. The comment that just came through. He used to talk about a football club like this in the 2010s. Literally, yeah. I just thought we needed to give them a shout out at the end and a brief rundown. Watch the games. Big game next Thursday against Panathinaikos in the EuroLeague. We got a Greek League game this weekend, but huge game against Panathinaikos in the EuroLeague, because they're probably going to win tomorrow against Villeurbanne. So there'll be one win ahead of us, and they'll be sitting in tied 3rd/4th with Monaco. We beat them, and we're on the same record as Panathinaikos. Like, huge game. We're at home. You know, obviously, like, everyone wants to beat those twats. Huge game. And then I think it's before the conference game. So basketball's first, at home, and then conference game right after. So another doubleheader next week. So yeah, just hopefully it cheered you guys up as much as it cheered me up, because I needed it.
Well, I mean, Olympiacos basketball should never be an afterthought, ever. I don't care how good the football team is. I don't care if the football team wins the Champions League. Basketball is not an afterthought. 3 European titles, absolute European giants. Olympiacos, the best Olympiacos team right now, and for some time now, is the basketball team. Even during the Valverde years, even during the Pedro Martins years, even that really good
Past
Marco
10
Silva
years.
year.
Past 12 years.
Yeah.
Cojones. Like nuts. Like they have it. Like they've got some big balls, and you can never write them off. You can never write them off. And that's what it means to be Olympiacos. And that's what makes fans proud. Like they make me proud. They make me proud to be not just an Olympiacos fan, but to be half from Piraeus. Like they represent me, and it's incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, there's never an afterthought. I just know that a lot more of our viewers and patrons are more football fans. So football does tend to take up more of the space. But there's a lot of us in the group that are huge basketball fans, and yeah. We'll keep shouting out and putting as much news out as possible.
Absolutely. Like I insist, guys, basketball is in no way an afterthought to football. Absolute congratulations to the basketball team that continue to make this club extremely proud. Big game. As for the football, well,
yeah, we got Panathinaikos both in the football and the basketball now within 4 days of each other.
Yes, absolutely. 2 really good big matches. Let's all rally up. A short memory right there. A goldfish's memory right there. If you haven't done so, guys, please do like and subscribe, as it really helps the algorithm. The more support we get, the more awesome content we're going to be putting out your way. Join us on Patreon, where you could get to see some exclusive footage of our latest interviews, our latest projects, our latest graphs, and also joining us on our extremely active WhatsApp group. Any last thoughts, Dimitri?
Patreon is as little as $1, by the way, so it's dirt cheap.
Absolutely.
No excuses not to join. And it's a great way not just to vent, but also to celebrate and to basically learn things that you haven't seen. Like, none of us are like experts. Someone might point out something and you're like, oh my God, this is great. I hadn't considered that. So it's a hub. It's a hub for all things Olympiacos.
Absolutely, guys. So thank you very much for joining us, guys, and we are going to see you soon.